Hey guys, time for my June flip through. It's a little late, but better late than never, right? So, the month of June, I chose a pink theme and I studied women that are actually symbols. They're not literal women or specific women who are being talked about, but rather they are symbols or commentary on how we should act. And I think it was interesting because one of the things I realized is almost all of them have a message that is for everybody, not just women. So the Titus 2 woman is about mentorship and having women of all ages help us to grow. But the same advice is given to men in the surrounding passages. So this isn't really just for women, though there is information there that is targeted towards women. But it's very much still things that men are told to do as well. So I enjoyed studying the Titus 2 woman. I was able to find Titus 2 women in my life who have been mentors to me. The Whore of Babylon, I studied the second week of June. And this is the only person that we're not supposed to imitate. But I did find a lot of parallels in terms of her being kind of like a foil to the woman of Revelation 12, which I studied the next week. But the Whore of Babylon is more of a warning for false worship and leading people astray. And again, that is something that men can learn from too. Like, it's not just about women and how women behave or shouldn't behave. It's about how we, as the body of Christ, should not behave, and reminding us of what's going to happen to those who behave like she does. So then I switched to the Revelation 12 woman, which I mentioned just a few seconds ago. And this woman, of course, is supposed to be like the church, and she is more pure, and she is being sheltered in the wilderness by God. And I really had fun studying the Revelation 12 woman. I ended up writing this little thing to myself about nourishment happens in a place of discomfort, because I was talking about her being in the wilderness and comparing that to Israel being in the wilderness and the time that the Messiah was in the wilderness and the time that Elijah was in the wilderness. The wilderness is a thing. It's a place of discomfort, but it's also the place where God nourishes our soul and brings us closer to Him. And that was kind of the focus of the Revelation 12 woman. But like I said, also relevant to men, not just to women. And then the final woman that I studied during the month of June was the Bride of Christ. And, as somebody who studies the Bible often, I actually caught myself being shocked because I realized that the Bride of Christ is never actually explicitly mentioned in the text. Like, for instance, the Whore of Babylon is not necessarily called the Whore of Babylon, but in some translations, it's called, like, she's called like a harlot, or like the mother of abominations or something like that. But it's very clearly stated that it's an idolatrous or an adulterous woman. And so the title kind of sticks. But there is literally nowhere where the bride of Christ is explicitly mentioned. The way we get this concept of the bride of Christ is through a couple of verses and kind of bringing them together. And I didn't realize that until I actually started studying the bride of Christ that last week in June. So that made me chuckle. But it was also an interesting study and thinking about how marriage relates to the church and how the church functions as an image of marriage and relationship. So I had a lot of fun studying this in general. I am really behind on posting notes to my blog. I apologize for that. Life just happens, but I will get to that when I can. Um Hopefully they will be up eventually, but I'm still sometime back in like April or May with trying to catch up. So um don't wait up for those. But you can pause the video at any time to see like specific things. And like I said, eventually I will go out and add that to the blog. But the final page that I have, as always, is my reflections, where I thought out what I had studied and looked back on the things that I had learned, which I kind of summarized for you guys just now. So that was my June flip through. See you guys again in July.